guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video I am talking about different types of depression. I'm not talking about all of them, just the main ones that I could remember. I did do a little bit more research on each of them so I could tell you some of the symptoms, and if this is something that you feel is interesting to you and you are wanting to know different forms of depression, then if you are interested in this video, please keep on watching. First, let me just say that I'm not a doctor and I am only talking based off of what I know from experience and then things that I've researched myself. I think it's important to say that while we don't allow the space to really talk about mental illness, period, the way that we should, I think it's also important to say that men can also suffer from depression the same as women do, that we need to allow that space for men as well. There's only one form of depression that I know of that men cannot suffer from, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, obviously, because that's when you're on your period and men don't have a period. But everything else, men can suffer from those forms of depression as well. So just because I already mentioned it, the premenstrual dysphoric disorder is when you feel depressed while at the beginning of your period, and that one has symptoms of mood swings, if you're irritable, you have anxiety, trouble concentrating, fatigue, change in sleep or appetite, and if you feel like overwhelmed. Those are all symptoms of premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which I think that I have, but I have not been diagnosed with that. I definitely have experienced all of those symptoms and I just didn't know. I just thought that that was normal, or what we call PMSing, but it's an actual form of depression. Major depressive disorder, that is when you feel depressed for most or all of the week, and those symptoms are loss of interest in activities, weight loss, or you can gain a lot of weight, trouble sleeping at night, or like during the day you're extremely tired, you have no energy, you're restless, you're irritated a lot, you have trouble concentrating, and you feel feeling of worthlessness or like hopelessness, and suicidal ideation. There is persistent depressive disorder, and that one is when you are feeling depressed for 2 years or more. That's like a low grade depression, but also can be chronic major depressive disorder if you are experiencing it for 2 years or more. But the symptoms of that one: change in eating, sleeping too much or not sleeping at all, low energy, low self-esteem, and trouble concentrating. The next one is bipolar disorder, and there are two forms of bipolar disorder. There is bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Bipolar 1, with both of them you have ups and downs, so manic episodes and depressive episodes. And in bipolar 1 you have more kind of like more frequent ups and downs. And with bipolar 2, you have more downs than you have ups. So basically, the ups are when you're manic and you're doing like high, like intensive activities that you wouldn't normally do, like wanting to do things that are like extremely dangerous, or spending a lot of money that you don't have to spend, but it's like almost like mentally you don't really know what you're doing, you're just doing it. And then the depressive episodes are what your lows are. The next one is seasonal affective disorder, and that's basically seasonal depression where you are depressed during like the winter or like when it's cold outside, and it goes away when it's like spring or summer. So with that one, the symptoms are the same as major depressive disorder, but again, you only feel those symptoms when like when it's cold, like during the winter time. The next one is psychotic depression. That one is, the symptoms are also the same as major depressive disorder, but the psychotic part of it is when you have like delusions, when you have hallucinations, or you like see or hear things that aren't actually there, and then you have paranoia. You feel like people are like after you or want to hurt you, but they really don't. There is postpartum depression. That one is again same symptoms as major depressive disorder, but you feel that when you are a few weeks or months after having a baby. And also, this one especially is important to know that men can also suffer from postpartum depression. That is definitely something that I didn't know that, and probably would not acknowledge that men can also suffer from. But when I was doing the research, it says that 1 in every 10 men feel postpartum depression. So I think that's really important to note. Is situational depression. And with situational depression, you are depressed because of something drastic that has happened in your life, like something different has happened. But that could be like losing your job, divorce, a death in your family. It could also be considered stress response syndrome. For me, I have been technically diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder and GAD, which is generalized anxiety disorder, which I can do another video with different types of anxiety if you guys would like to see that too. But I did not agree with that diagnosis because, well, I don't think that I'm bipolar at all, but more because when I went to go see that psychiatrist, I saw him for maybe 10 minutes and he had already diagnosed me, and that just seemed weird to me, that you can diagnose somebody within 10 minutes of seeing them and not like seeing them multiple times or for a longer period of time. So because of that, I did not necessarily agree with that diagnosis of being bipolar. I did see a second psychiatrist, and that psychiatrist told me that she did not think that I was bipolar at all, but if she were to diagnose me with bipolar, it would have been bipolar 2, not bipolar 1, and only because I do have manic episodes, but they're not enough to really say that I am bipolar. So that's why she said that it may be, if she were to use that, it would kind of be an identifier but not a diagnosis. So from what she explained it, an identifier is when you are being diagnosed with something, and I guess a book or something, they have to say like how they got to that diagnosis. So I guess that she could use bipolar 2 as an identifier, but she wouldn't, just because she didn't really think that I had enough manic episodes to say that I had bipolar 2, but definitely not bipolar 1. She did say that she would diagnose me with major depressive disorder, and that made sense for, what I know the symptoms to be, and just like what I was feeling, and all of that stuff. So I do have major depressive disorder and GAD, generalized anxiety disorder. Now, my advice, if you are ever wanting to talk to a therapist or a psychiatrist because you want a diagnosis, if you do not feel comfortable with the diagnosis that was given to you, you have a right to see a different doctor to get different opinions. You do not have to, go with the first thing that was said to you, especially if you feel uncomfortable with what that outcome was. So I wanted so badly to have a diagnosis, just because I felt like if I have a diagnosis, then I could feel like nothing was wrong with me, or that I wasn't crazy for, how I was feeling, that there was something that I could put a label on. But I did very quickly realize that that was not how that worked, at least for me anyway. Having a diagnosis did not make me feel any better. It did not determine, me not feeling crazy, or not feeling like, something is seriously wrong with me, or, it didn't change any of those feelings. So if you are wanting a diagnosis just for that simple fact, like I did, you need to do what is best for you, and maybe for you, having a diagnosis will give you some type of comfort if that's what you're looking for. But just for me, it didn't work that way. I do think that having information to understand what you're feeling is good, just because I think when you have like a list of symptoms that you can read and see that you identify with, regardless if you are diagnosed with something by a psychiatrist, or it can feel good just to see, these are the symptoms that I'm feeling, and this is, something that's normal, in the sense of it's not just me that feels, these certain things, that there are enough people in the world that feels this, that I can go and research it and see that, I'm not alone with what I'm feeling. It sounds really bad to say, because it's not that I'm crazy, and it's not that anybody suffering from mental illnesses is crazy. But for whatever reason, and it could be just society, you know, with mental illness having such a taboo kind of label, that it makes you feel like you're an outcast, or like you're the one that's weird because it's not the norm for people to experience what you're feeling. But I feel like there are more people that feel these feelings that don't acknowledge it, don't really know that that's what they're feeling, don't have the support to say that it's okay that they're feeling that way, and the support to get the help that they need because they're feeling that way. So if you are feeling any of these things, like any of these symptoms that I mentioned, I would say to, you know, talk to a doctor. You can go to a regular doctor and ask to talk to somebody to take a, they have, I don't know if they're necessarily called surveys or that they're just tests that they give you, but that's how I started the process. I went to a regular doctor and told them what I was feeling, and they gave me a survey or test or whatever, like questionnaire to fill out, and then I just went from there. It's okay for you to get that help because you deserve to feel better, and you deserve to be okay. And fighting it alone is possible. It's definitely possible, because I did it for a very long time. But if you can get the help, I think that just makes it so much easier for you to deal with, and so much easier to get through, because you have support and you have help from, you know, friends, family, a professional. It's important to take what you're feeling seriously, even though it's very easy to, you know, brush off and just call it a bad day and move on. But sometimes, you know, it is just a bad day or just a bad situation. But sometimes it's more than that. And you don't have to know the difference between the two. So if you're feeling something, just talk to somebody professional, and they can, you know, help you determine what your next steps need to be. Me personally, if I would have taken what I was feeling serious the moment I was feeling it, then I probably would not have gotten so far gone with my depression. So, because there was a long period of time, for maybe like a year and a half, I was very in denial and would not accept that that's what I was going through. I just kept saying that I was okay, and or it's just a bad day, it'll pass, you know, I'm not gonna pay attention to it. And it just got to a point where I could not brush it off anymore, and by that time I was deep in it. Getting help can be a frustrating process, and it can be hard for you to do mentally. So just, you know, take it one step at a time, but know that you are worthy enough to get the help that you feel that you need. There's no standard of, you know, what you should do, you know, for yourself. Everybody, you know, has their own way of processing and dealing with things. So don't feel like just because one person does one thing and it works for them that you have to do that and that it will work for you too, because not everything works for everybody. And just how I would have sworn therapy was not for me after having bad experiences, if somebody would have asked me, I would have, said, you should try it for yourself, but it definitely doesn't work for me. And that's okay that it didn't work, that I thought it didn't work for me. Maybe it works for other people. I just got lucky enough to find a really good therapist that, it did end up working for me. So, all of that to say, be patient with yourself. Hey guys, I just wanted to come back and say, if you are experiencing any of these symptoms that I talked about in this video, please make sure that you reach out to the number below and talk to somebody about what you're feeling. They can direct you in how to get the help that you need. Just remember that you are not alone and that you matter, you are important, and that you deserve to do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. It's my regular, I'm talking, thanks for